So we've got Lily coming on the show with us today, and wow, this is a mind-opening conversation. So Lily speaks about having negative energies and curses placed on her when she was younger, and how that actually started affecting her life. And then she started looking into the healing in the Akashic Records, and she explains about that, and how she went on to write books and basically brought her to where she is now in general. Really interesting, really interesting. And it's just phenomenal to think that things like that happen, but there is ways that can be taken away. So yeah, it was just like, wow. It was crazy. So have a great time listening into it, and let me know what you think of this. If anybody has done the Akashic Records before, if you've touched on that, or have you ever heard of anybody having curses placed on them, or ways that they have had to remove this negative energy that surrounded them to help them get on with life. So really interested to hear some feedback on this as well. So hope you enjoy this. And as always, if you love this, then do give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow, and subscribe. Well, hello, good welcome, Lily. Thank you so much for coming on. Welcome. It's so lovely to have you on my podcast. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Michelle. Thank you for having me in this podcast. I was looking forward, and it's my pleasure to be here to tell my story today.
Yeah, I'm excited, and it's funny because me and Lily were just having a chuckle because we couldn't see each other on the screen, so we had to come off and back on and off and back on, and we thought somebody's maybe playing with us today. Somebody's not on.
There's something in the air playing.
Something in the air, but we got there.
Yeah, we're here now.
We are here. So Lily has had a very fruitful, exciting, crazy ride of a life, should I say, and different things, because it was back in your younger years, you were very much through, and you were pulled into like a faith system, which was something that was passed from your family and taken into you, and that kind of took you on a bit of a wild ride, shall we say, through life. So just tell me a little about what that was like for you, and how that faith was put into your life. Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I come from Italy, and I was born in the region of Abruzzo, in the countryside, actually. When I was actually from a Catholic family. I was baptized, like, the normal Catholic routine. But that very year, my dad embraced the Jehovah Witness religion and changed everything. Now, of course, as a kids, we were brought up in that doctrine, and we were isolated because we were in the countryside. But the worst of the isolation was coming from the indoctrination of this religion. We were told that the world is evil, people outside there, they're evil. And the worst part actually was my dad was an only child, and we didn't have family, to be honest. We were 8 children, but we didn't have family.
It was just yous and
just us.
Just the kids, that's it.
That's it. We had no uncles, no aunties, cousins. Now we had just one uncle in Canada, and the other uncle is a year older than my brother. So we had no relatives, where we could have tasted the world outside. The only thing was when we were to school. And I started noticing people, my friends, they were different. No, different. They were, they had a Christmas, and they had birthdays, and, all the small things of life.
Yeah.
And for us, this was all satanic, demonic, was just bad.
Whoa.
And at the same time, we had weird things in the house happening, really spiritual occurrences. darkness, spirit walking the house at night.
Spirits
Until,
walk in the house at night.
yeah, opening the doors, coming in, coming under the bed, pulling the bed,
Oh
pulling you out the bed, knocking open the windows, going up and down the stairs.
my God, how old were you when all this was in the height of it?
Yeah, we were young, 10,
That
5,
must have been
15. Yeah,
frightening.
terrifying. And we used to ask, tell mom, tell dad. We were accused not to be Christian enough. We were just told, I remember once I brought home, my friend gave me a little weekly magazine for, the girls' weekly magazine and all
Yes,
that stuff.
uh-huh.
Have broke loose. That was a satanic material I brought in the house. That's why we had the spirit in the house. This kind of accusation.
Wow.
So that was the level of madness we were. And then there was lots of violence.
Violence as well, was there?
Yeah. So we're talking about a narcissistic mother, pure narcissistic. And I until like 5 years ago, I was, rattling my brain, thinking, what was wrong with mom? Just never understood why she was so mean. And I was, usually if you was thinking, my grandparents were good people. They were both sides. They were such good people.
Yeah.
But I never understood where that both mom and that dad was bipolar. But mom was just evil. She was just a narcissistic, she still is, this narcissistic personality, which I couldn't never figure out until I came across of the narcissistic personality studies, and because I've been reading, trying to understand, and I understood what was the problem with her. And with that, then, as I was saying, last year I came to uncover the real darkness she's been implementing over us, the entire family. She had this dark side with dark arts, really black magic and stuff. And she sucked. We were always sick as children, in and out of hospitals. We were always sick. And basically, through my healing, and then last year, I really discovered why she's been taking all our health, our life forces for herself.
It's like jaw just, it's like at the floor. That's things that you hear things like this. It's like if you were to watch a freaking movie. Do you
Yeah.
know, like literally your life that you had growing up and you speaking about this. This is like something that you would watch in a film in total disbelief, and it's just, and I take it that this was from like as far back as you can remember, really, really young, all the way through that you had no contact with the outside world, and then these spirits and this dark side surrounding your house that she was. So, do you think was she temperate? Like, was she practicing with the darkness? I suppose with the dark magic.
Yeah. And I was all covered under the mask of the religion. She was dabbling in this life, and she was just taking our life force literally. She never been one day sick in her life. Never been sick in her life. We were always touching death. In fact, we lost a brother, the youngest one. We lost him.
You lost.
The youngest, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we had accidents, we were sick, we were all sorts. Anyways, these are things, of course, you cannot ever prove, but we know, we know.
Yeah, like
We
you've
know
been in that environment and now you're older, looking back on all
exactly.
of this, it's like the pennies seriously dropped that this is a life that you were living.
That was my, yes, childhood growing up. I tried to leave when I was 18. I have this uncle in Canada, and I tried to escape. I went there, and the only thing, I couldn't stay there because they have a strict visa rules.
Right,
Because
okay.
I wanted just to never go back. I went with my granddad. I stayed there for 6 months, and my uncle tried everything because he knew I was abandoned at the age of 5 in the hospital, for example. And when I was talking to him, I didn't know because we were lied throughout. We were lied with, I was put in at the age of 5 and his orphanage in Italy, just to get rid of me. It didn't work. And then I was with my uncle in Canada, and I said, geez, I mean, I remember those years, those days, months in that hospital. And I said to my uncle, I said, geez, it felt like I was abandoned. And he fucking changed his life. His face, his color, he changed because he knew I was abandoned. And and I said, oh my God, there you go. That's the confirmation. I was abandoned there because, of course, Mom would never say such a thing.
That's it, yeah.
So I went there, and then my uncle said, yes, he tried to help me to stay there. And he said, look, there are only two options here. Either you get married with somebody, even if it's a sham marriage. And I said, God, no way I'm going to get married.
You're like, I want to escape, but...
No, exactly. I said, I'm going to escape that madness. God knows where I'm going to end up. Me getting married, that was the last thing in my life.
Just get married to anybody.
Yeah. And he said, oh, otherwise you have to hide yourself in the basement. I had to hide myself in the basement to stay in Canada. I said, you know what, I'm going to go back, and that's it. So I tried to escape, but then at the age of 20, I just left. I left home and I went to the nearby town, and I was renting this flat by myself.
Did you have enough money and resources? When you got to 20, I take it that's when you were like, I've got enough resources now to go, to leave.
The only thing that saved my mental sanity was to get into work, to stay away from home. That was the best thing I could to keep my sanity. Because I remember I started doing summer work, like on the Lake of Garda, Rimini region, in these hotels, like for 3 months, just to stay away from home. And that worked. It helped me a lot. Then that year, in the 90s, I just left to come to London. And then I started, kind of purifying, just releasing all that heaviness and trying to understand what was all about my past, because then I had new friends. They were all normal. They didn't have the demon speaking here, Satan, Armageddon, all this terrible life, they were happy, people went out and they were, normal, they were families together. I mean, my family, despite the appearances that, a Christian family.
From the outside, yeah.
The outside, it was broken absolutely beyond repair. And then, not to say, we were always put one against the other. Mama would just, say, oh, your sister's done this, your brother's done this. She would manipulate.
Try and cause conflict within the family.
Always. And against Dad as well. I mean, Dad, the poor man, he tried his best, but he couldn't. He couldn't overcome the power of the darkness, the dark side, really.
When you came to London, how, because you were basically wanting to start doing your life on your terms, came, that was what you were growing up, brought into, and it wasn't your choice, and it was absolutely frightening and horrible, and what a thing for a child to have to go through, and just as your family unit. So when you were coming to London, were you almost ready to take on a new avatar?
Yes.
Basically, this is me, this is who I want to be. I'm going to design myself now instead of being that. Get the weight off you. How did you start moving? How did you start moving forward?
From a spiritual point of view, your soul knows and remembers who you are. Of course, I mean, then I start understanding on the spiritual side that without doing any spiritual work or anything, that we are unique and we come here for our own experience. Now, I've learned that phrase saying, you cannot choose your family. And I accepted that. You cannot choose your family. You're just born into that. But I never knew that we choose that family because we choose that path That is our spiritual path to waken us up and make our spirit to grow. I learned that long after I left Italy. So when I came here to London, yes, I was ready to build my own life. I wasn't looking for a career or to get into relationship. No, I was looking just after myself.
Yeah,
I
find you.
needed to purify my mind, to stay away from any negativity, and I managed pretty well, actually.
Good.
When I came here, I didn't have all that negativity around me. I was able to go to university. I managed to graduate, and then I managed to get into a teaching training program. And that was the moment I learned and I accepted what happened to me, because we were learning and trained to safeguard the kids and the kind of issues, that's on the academic point of view, the issue the kids can face in families, rapes, violence, all sorts of abuses. And every time that I was, going through those programs, I said, that's happened to me, that's happened to
And it was
us,
like
that's happened.
unlocking part.
Yeah. So that was my first step of healing. Of course, healing is like a peeling an onion, it never stops.
Yeah.
Then I got
There's always a new layer.
And of course, I mean, being brought up in these conditions, those memories are stored in your cells. And then I was always sick. I always had these migraines in my life. I had migraines non-stop, even though I was good. And then from here, my husband got a job in Saudi Arabia, and I joined him, and we went in Saudi Arabia, and we were good. We were perfect, Apart, I found the best husband in the world.
Good. You deserve it. You deserve to find the best husband in the
I
world.
said, exactly. At least that. I have the best man in the world. I mean, he's such a lovely. Anyway, when something is good.
Yeah. Oh, love that. Like, yes, definitely well deserved. Definitely well deserved.
Despite that, unfortunately, we were in Saudi. We had good life. We were good. We were
Did
good.
you live there for quite a few years? Did you actually live and move over there?
From London?
Yeah. Were you still in London, or were you just travelling back to Saudi Arabia?
Oh
Or
no,
were you living?
I think the first 2-3 years I was going back and forth.
Okay, right, okay,
because we were not even married. The last thing in my mind was to get married. That was me. But then we got married. We had to get married because down there, if we weren't married, they wouldn't allow me to get in there. Because
Right,
they're very strict.
okay. Yeah, so, yeah.
So, but again, that was the best thing that happened to me. I was absolutely against marriage. I said, we're going to live together. If anything's going to happen, I'll pack and go. That was me. I couldn't be bothered to be in any relationships. I said, if I have any problem, that's why marriage wasn't, but that was the best thing that happened to me. I got married. Anyway. So the first few years went back and forth, and then I moved there. And I was working in schools there. Then we bought a second property and said, you know what, we don't know how long we're going to stay here. My health wasn't very good. So I went even to Kuwait by myself to hurry up and pay all the mortgages and finish with these payments. And that year, after I was in Kuwait, I got so sick. I got absolutely sick, and I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic pain syndrome, like fatigue syndrome. Basically, had a chronic headache. I visited the best doctors in Harley Street, in Milan, Rome. Even booked in 2009. I even booked a scientist, a surgeon in South Africa. Johannesburg. He was specialized for pain relief, cutting your pain receptors
like in your neck,
behind
kind of your
neck.
nerve or something, yeah.
Because I couldn't cope anymore with the pain, and medication wasn't working with me. So I had to leave
And
my
nobody
job.
could find out what the problem was. Nobody could figure out why.
No, there was no one, no doctors, no one. They gave me all sorts of medications I was carrying. Once, because I was living in Saudi Arabia, I spent 600 euros in Italy for medications to take back with me, to take for painkillers, medication to take back with me, because once you were there, we were if we were leaving, we went out, we went to other country to visit, we wouldn't come back in Europe. So to cover myself, this is how much I used to spend in medication. So that
is
year I had
absolutely astronomical. That's crazy.
yeah. And then exactly because we were living there, there were prescription medication, but not what you find here. It's just, antibiotics or just the
Yeah,
basic things you need. So from Kuwait, I had to leave my job, and I had to go back to Saudi Arabia. We were in the middle of the desert. The only thing for us was flying out. The other thing, we could go to Bahrain.
Okay. Yeah.
But at that stage, I was traveling with wheelchair.
It got that bad that you were in a wheelchair with it.
Wheelchair, yeah. I had a tumor in my liver,
Bloody
fibromyalgia.
hell.
I had all sorts. The pain was so excruciating. Medication wasn't working. I remember the nights spending in the toilet, crawl into the toilet, hug the toilet, and I had this vomiting syndrome because I was so bad. So at that point, then I said, you know what? That's not life. I'm going to kill myself. But I didn't know how to do it.
Fucking hell. My God.
I was so desperate. And then this friend of mine, she came and visited me. She said, well, what's going on? What's going on? And I said, nothing, I finished. So that's it, I'm done. And she said, oh my God. I said, no. She said, speak with this guy. This guy is a healer. And I said, what? A healer?
You're like, didn't come to me with any of that bloody carry on.
I had no choice. And I said, this or what? I'm going to kill myself. I didn't even know how to kill myself.
That's the options. It's like the other options before. Either like you marry someone or the basement. So these options are, you don't want to be doing the first one, or you're going to have to just try this spiritual voodoo stuff that you were trying to avoid.
So I called this guy. My conversation to him was so weird because I had no knowledge about healing. To me, that language is completely alien. And he said, for example, go out, hug a tree. And I said, what? A tree? I said, first of all, we don't have trees in the desert. There are no trees. And I was
to buy a little tree to take with you.
I was so frustrated. And it was like 20 minutes on Skype. It cost me $250. And I said, geez, can I tell this to my husband? I spent $250 for 20 minutes to talk some who thing me I took a tree. I said, the worst bit was I had the second, third appointment with this guy. I kept that because I was so ashamed to tell my husband that I was spending so much money to talk with these people.
To a healer, yeah. And probably because you didn't quite believe it yourself. So you're like, I'm just going to give this a bash. I'm going to give this a shot.
Yeah. And then everything started from that. So I'll make the story short because otherwise it's going to take a month here. By the way, I wrote a few books about this. So I will talk about the books in a bit. So from there, and I said, okay, let me start understanding if there is something more. So I started looking into meditation. And from my right brain thinking, and I said, I need to see scientific evidence about the stuff. I'm not doing things just because somebody says.
Just believe in the unknown, yeah.
All my research about the meditation and the energetic influence does have within your neurosystem. So, and I accept that. And I start practicing. And with that, so what happened is, because we were in Saudi, I would have asked people when coming back to the UK, I would buy books from Amazon, send it to their addresses, and they would bring back Saudi. So, and I started reading those books. Meditation led me to Reiki led me to the reconnection led me to the Akashic Records. And the best thing was this Akashic Records. I mean, I bought so many books, but then I had to leave all behind anyway, because I've been moving countries. There is a scientist, Irvin Laszlo, and he wrote so many books. He is a 3-4 times PhD scientist and he's talking about Akashic Records, and that sold to me.
So
If
you
a
were like, right,
scientist,
if he's, yeah.
exactly, if a scientist of this caliber can talk about the quantum physics entanglement and how this relates to us, is my man. And that's it. And that's where I start learning about the Akashic Records, the healing, the energetic world, and I start accepting that there are energies, malevolent energies, benevolent energies. Going back to when I understood the full pictures of what happened to us in Italy, in my family. I think I'm going back and forth
No,
here.
jump back and forward. It all joins together.
So what happened is, after COVID, we left Saudi Arabia. We said, okay, we come back to the UK. We said, you know what? We can rent this property out and we can go to Italy. It's more relaxed. We are almost retired. Go back to Italy. We bought a property there. And the very day I landed, I got so sick. I
When
had
you
asthma attack
landed in Italy.
in Italy. I had to go the day after. I had to go. I was going around with the inhaler, asthma attack immediately. My husband said, "Oh Jesus, I mean, this is you must be allergic to olive trees because we have trees around the house." And then also I started a sharp pain inside my wrist here, excruciating pain. That's starting my rheumatoid arthritis. I was in pain, the migraines. 5 days after 7 days, I was in bed with the migraine.
Oh my goodness.
Bad, 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 bad. Now, this is in the same village where my family lives. Now, we are at the stage that so much has happened that we are not in a very good relationship with the siblings. But I have a mad sister. She's the mad of the house. But in her madness, she gets things right. Always see beyond. And she told me so many things that I said, geez, okay. All right, okay, she's mad. So last year in 2024, she's severely diabetic and she had this operation on her foot. So I said, you know what, don't go home, stay with me and I'll look after you for at least for a week until you get better. And then, you can go home because you
Yeah,
need
just some
to
recuperation and just
change. Yeah,
help.
she had that
Yeah.
operation. She needs to be looked after. That one afternoon, very early, I had this splitting headache as well, again. And she saw me and I said, I had to go now because I had to take a medication.
Go
I
and
was
lie
really going
down.
to bed. And I went upstairs, I went to bed. And after 20 minutes, the headache is gone. I'd gone. And I went downstairs and she looked at me. She said, what happened to you? And I said, the headache is gone. And she said, I asked San Camillo, the local saint in the church, to release your headache. I said, all right, okay, there we go. Going back to this woo-woo stuff now. And then Alex came downstairs, sorry, and she said, well, what's going on? And I said, yeah, no, my headache is gone. Ah, okay. I said, Graciela said, my sister said, she asked her son coming, and apparently, now it's her
He
doing,
took
I
it
don't have a
away.
headache. He looked at me straight in my face and he said, you should go to San Camilo, say thank you.
And you're sitting there going, oh my goodness, what's
And I
going
said,
on? I'm
and I
surrounded.
said, I said, all right, I don't know what to do because, I'm against two now. And I said, all right, okay, we go. So I'll take you. All right, we go. So I went there, I went to the church and I said, my God, I never went to the church. I went just for the grandma's funeral. You go through the motion. I
Yeah.
don't know how to say a single prayer. I don't know anything. So I went there, I went to the church and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to pray. But I'm here to say, if anything has happened to me, this headache, it's gone. Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't know. That night, the following morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was in my bedroom, sound asleep, and I had the church bell ringing. And I mean, it woke me up. Just, when something wakes you up,
Yeah.
it's so loud.
Startled.
And I was, when you deep sleep, and I woke up and I said, And I went towards the window, and I went to, because we have separate rooms, me and my husband. Next to my room, there's his room, the door open. And I was looking, I said, he's sleeping. He's sleeping so, he hasn't heard anything. And I said, am I mad? What's going on here? And I opened the window and I said, where this church bell came from? That was the confirmation I received the miracle.
That's
Michelle, since
crazy.
last year, my headache disappeared. Listen to this. A week later, my sister insisted to go and visit a priest 2 hours drive away from home.
Mm-hmm.
Charismatic priest. Do everything. Why not?
Yeah,
See what
well,
he has to say.
throw yourself into it now. You're like,
Yeah, exactly. So I went to see this priest. We went, me, my husband, and my sister. He looked at me and he said, geez, how did you cope with
she
these
said that to
headaches?
you.
Yeah, straight like this. How did you cope all your life with these headaches? I didn't say anything. And I said, what else? And he said, that was put on you, wrapped. Your head was wrapped at the age of 11. That was put on you, on your head, to keep you ignorant, stupid, not to achieve anything, not to get married, and not to have kids.
Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
So, like,
Who's that?
on full on curse placed on you from 11 years old to stop you basically being a woman.
By and
Whoa.
I just no comment. That it is so real. It's so yes. I had my first migraine. I was that age. I cannot say I was 11, but I was still in the primary school, the secondary school, and I
Yeah,
was this
in that
violent
transitional stage.
vomiting. That's why there was no doctor could help me. No doctors on earth could help me with my health.
Whoa, that's crazy. And as soon as you've walked in,
Yeah.
the priest directly looked at you and told you all of that. Wow.
I've never met this person in my life. I spent my life here. This is the last 30 years between London, Saudi, and the world. This guy is 2 hours away, drive from, and he never met me. Then he said things to my sister, things to my husband, just.
Yeah. Jeez. Whoa. My goodness. What a wild ride. We're not even halfway through.
So that's my story. And then, yes, I got into healing.
Yeah, so
Well, I
the
mean,
healing after that. So once your headaches were lifted and gone, did your health then start getting did your health get back on track again eventually? Or did you have to start unraveling basically what was done in the past? How did your health start to
I'm much better now. The headaches disappeared and the fibromyalgia is gone. I mean,
Wow,
I'm much better, much better.
good.
I even had, and I've just remembered now, with the headache, I even had a cyst in my. When I was discovered, when I had this MRI scan in Saudi, and they told me you have a cyst in your brain, I booked the ticket that very evening because they said, we don't know what that is. And I said,
Well,
oh my
yeah.
God, I'm dying. I just
Yeah.
came immediately back here to see, and that was caused just by the headache, the inflammation, the swelling.
Was it?
Yeah, and since then, I mean, since I left Saudi, and then I started my own healing. So going back to the Akashic Records, I worked with this guy from Bali. Then I worked with a person from New York, the US. And then my teacher was from the proper Akashic Records, the one I'm practicing now myself, was from Scotland. This beautiful soul. He spent most of her life, I think, as passed though. Anyway, so she spent most of her life in the US and she came back here and she taught me. I mean, she was a teacher anyway, she was teaching. And she taught me that the Akashic Records. And I've been practicing now. It's about 10 years. And the power. I mean, first of all, I've discovered that what's my soul mission. So now, I mean, I got the full picture. Who I am at the soul level. What's my mission? Everything I went through, that was all agreed upon contracts with my family, all the siblings. So in that respect, the moment I say, oh, but do you talk? For many years, my friends, as well, especially my friends, say, come on, your mom cannot be that bad. And I really used to believe, it's me. Is me the wrong one? And so I kept myself to myself. But now, I mean, it's quite a while. I accept it. I accept and I understand what's my role, my family role, my siblings' roles. Do I talk to them? No, because we all live our lives according to our awareness. So they are like babies, children in regard to their spiritual awareness. And apart from my mom, which is something else, their
Yeah,
awareness
yeah,
is
yeah,
completely
something
something
else
else.
entirely.
So I started working with the Akashic Records, and energetically, I'm meant to do this work. And before I started that, I started with Reiki. I went through the first learning was with the Jikidinu Reiki, this original form from Japan. How much time do we have?
We've got plenty of time. 42 minutes we're at now, but most of my podcasts so far have been an hour and 20 odd minutes. We've plenty of time. Plenty of time.
So I want to touch on these modalities now. For me, the energetic work is something amazing, and at the same time, they're all the same in the sense that they all work with energy, and
Yeah,
energy
they're
is
all
one.
working with your energy system.
Energy. Now, the thing is, when you go through those training, I started with the Jikidini Reiki, for example, and it was amazing. For me, it was the first time. I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. But that would put me off big time because I come from this background of religious indoctrination. Was if I wanted to practice under that system, I had to have pictures of the people who created this type of Reiki, and I had to call on them before I start the practice. And then you have to do very strict rules. You put your hand like this, your hand
Yeah,
like this,
because
you do this. So
that's different from like the standard Reiki.
yeah,
You don't have to.
but the
Yeah, yeah.
symbols and all that stuff for
Yeah, just the
me
symbols.
didn't work because I knew as soon I learned Reiki through a book. And I was reading and I was doing the Reiki like this. The energy was like this. Oh my God. So when I got into the proper training to get the certificate and qualification, I couldn't cope with the rigidity of the system. For me, it was too rigid. I then came to Scotland to Elizabeth. Oh, I don't remember the surname anyway. I spent a week there, all the training. It was beautiful as well. And again, my God, she had all these strict rules. You do this, you had to do this stuff, strict. When for me, I was already practicing with other people, and people were getting better. I wasn't even qualified, but the energy was just there. And so I got all the qualifications. It's on my wall. It's there, but I do not practice. And then reading the books of this Akashic Records Laszlo, he's a scientist. Oh my God, don't remember now how you call these scientists do. He's Herbin Laszlo of the universe. Anyway, anyway, I don't remember now. And he mentions Eric Pearl, Dr. Eric Pearl, in one of his books. And I always, that's the way I've learned. I read a book and I make a note and I say, who is this Eric Pearl? And I buy his books. I read his books and he comes to Italy in 2018. I said, I'm going to go and see him because I need to learn from him. And he has this
Brilliant. So you're seeking
technique.
them out to actually learn more. Yeah.
Yes, and so he's teaching reconnective healing, just not touch, just from distance. And I said, wow, that's for me. Perfect. You keep this distance from the body because that's our aura energetic field. And I was already practicing that. And I said, that's perfect. And the energy is even stronger. Wow, that's it.
Is
That's
it?
for me.
Is it
So
stronger? Wow.
it gets stronger because you don't waste time on focusing on the hand position.
Yes.
And the result is much stronger. It's much better. It's easier.
Wow.
And because you don't have this interference of your thinking, which is distracted on where to put your hand, how to position, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
again, this too came with attachment. You had to be a member, and blah, blah. And I said, okay, I'm gonna create my own healing work. So
Yeah.
we went to Italy. I said, semi-retired, I can do my healing work hands-on and the Akashic Records. We went to Italy, and there was a deadly black magic put on us both. That's what it was. I was so sick the day after I arrived with us, but something
Again.
just out the blue. My husband went into depression. We lost all the savings we had.
What?
In-house repairs. The roof would leak. There was a bit of wind. Half of the roof would come off. The houses we had here, the repair, we had to spend so much money. It was a constant hitting us, hitting
Yeah.
us. That was all through.
And it's every time that it sounds like every time you've like landed back on Italian soil, literally, it's like it's attached to you again.
Yeah. No, it's renewed. It's renewed. It's purposely done. It's purposely done. So we are back here from last year, and we're keeping away because it's just until that person is still alive, it's not safe. It's not safe. So, and the good thing is we know.
Yeah, you've
when
got
you
total
know,
awareness that this is being placed on you.
and for every time I speak to this stuff, the people say, "Oh, this thing's in your head." So I used to believe this thing's in your.
It's just it's just all in your head. It's not a real thing. And you're like,
Yeah.
I've got too much evidence now that's happened in
Yeah.
my life that's all stacked up. This is definitely not like just coincidence.
Yeah. So through my experience, I managed to write, because at the moment, exactly when I came back and I said, okay, I needed to stand by. I'm standby now, standby mode. So I've been writing. I started writing from 2020, even earlier, but I couldn't put together those because the conflicting, too much. Is that true? Is it not true? But then what happened last year, before I left from Italy, this mad sister of mine opened. She told me so many things that really fit the puzzle.
Really
And I
start putting
cannot,
things
I
together.
don't want to say, I wrote this book where there is everything, now I can't even find the word, it's raw.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's everything. This one, I wrote this book before this, the Curse Breaker, and this is my healing book where I talk about my story in each chapter, and I offer a healing chapter for the reader. And this is the way I overcome my reality,
Your
my
journey and what
situation,
things. So yeah.
my journey.
So at the end of
Yes.
every chapter, once you've been through it, it'll have something at the end on how somebody can actually
Yes.
start healing themselves if that's happened to them. So
Yeah.
it's ending on perfect. That's amazing. That's amazing.
So that's my journey. As I said, there is so much that has happened that you would need probably 3 podcasts to squeeze
People
everything
need to
in.
just be, I think, reading the books as well. Reading the book, because the books that you've done now, the one that's about your journey and the healing, there's so many people that have went through not exactly the same journey as you, but everybody has got interlinked experiences through trauma or illness or different things.
Yeah.
So the healing process and the healing energetics that your body can do is just phenomenal. So amazing that
Oh
you've
yes, that's why this is a testimonial of you can go through hell, but the moment you realize the purpose of your life and you accept what happened to you, but it's not because you're a victim, you are co-creator. So your soul knows you had to go through that, and trust me, your soul is tough enough to go through and come out the other side as a winner. That's why I always say to my friends, nothing can stop you. Nothing. Because deep down, you just needed to stop the noise, go inward and speak to your soul, understand. And you will realize that you are made of something of divine, and you have so much power to come out of the other side even stronger. And you can use that experience to help others. So that's
love
my
that. And
mission
it's
now.
so it's so true. People, and I've been there too. It's been in that victim mode. It's a normal thing to be. Life is happening to me, not for me. But when you have that acceptance, and then moving through that through differently.
Yeah. It's all about recognizing that it's not just happening to you. It's happening because at soul level, you made that decision. I mean, if you told me this 15 years ago, I would have run after you. How dare you to say this? How
You're
dare
like,
you?
she's crazy. She's nuts.
Yeah, exactly. That was my position, you know. But now I'm fully convinced,
Enlightened.
beyond convinced, that it's us. I mean, we are divine beings. We have so much power inside. We are souls. We are not this body. We are not this. We are souls. We are made from that divine star.
Yeah,
And
made
we
from
can,
stardust.
absolutely. It's marvelous. I mean, life is great. And as I said, I have everything to look forward to it. Now I started, since we met in London, and
Yeah.
the title of this book, it came out straight from London. Because
Oh, did it? Oh, did it?
yeah,
Yeah,
because I
well,
had the book, but I was naming something else, something I don't
and
want to
then
say.
as when we heard some of the story, it was like, that's what it needs
I
to
changed
be.
the title. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the most suitable title, and and I'm just so glad when we met in London, because every time you meet new people, and there's always a purpose, there's always a reason why. So because they will cross your path for some reason.
Yes,
Yeah,
so true. Very, very, very true. And I'm so proud of you with that book, because it's always hard when you're putting down in words your story and the real rawness, but in order to help other people,
oh
because
yeah.
that's,
Yeah, I'm not sick. This is not to seek sympathy or any. I've dealt with all of that. I mean, I'm over now. I mean, this is dealt with.
well,
You know,
you're a shining light now. Like, you would never have thought that would be part of
no,
your backstory.
exactly. Yeah, and it's exactly now I'm in a position to I can put this out and for people to read and understand. There is always a turnaround and come back, and and you can make this
And no
useful.
matter what environment you find yourself in,
Yeah.
really, really, because you
Yes,
can find
absolutely.
yourself in very difficult environments like that you kind of feel like you have to be there because it's part of your, if it's part of you
Yeah,
growing up, it's part of your childhood.
yeah,
Or some people it's because it's part of their marriage and they're
yeah,
in it and it's
yeah,
stuck. So there's so many different layers and different ways that people could be in something
yeah.
and not able to kind of, or feel like they can't get out. But the environment, yeah, is so important. And as soon as you left that environment, you grew as a
Mm,
person,
yeah. Because we get trapped. I mean, if I look now, for example, my sisters, some of them, they're so damaged. I have the oldest sister. She's at mum's service like a slave. And dare I to say something bad about mum, you know?
Yeah,
She will
yeah.
say, how dare you? You disrespectful, I mean, and she will never see. I'm convinced she will never see the light.
She'll never see the light in that.
She's so damaged. Then I have another sister. She's sort of like my dad, and half a bipolar, half she's just this in and out, this confusion, total confusion, anger. So, but I try to speak to her and say, you can do better. You need to accept what it is. In the past, you cannot change the past. If you like it or
Exactly.
not, we chose that. Now, it's not easy to understand or accept that. I understand that. But then I always bring the scientific point of view. What helped me most, for example, I started reading Wayne Dyer's books, Joe Dispenza's books, Bruce
Yes.
Lipton's books. We're talking about the biology to reprogram your biology. Now, if you don't want to believe in the spiritual side, at least believe in the biological, genetic, epigenetic side.
Yes.
So that there are at the scientific level, cannot get through. They're
Just
just
can't
stuck
get through.
there. Unfortunately, there are people who, for some reason, they're going to go through that for the rest of their lives. It's very sad. So another reason is that's why I felt I need to write those books to show that you can make to the other side.
Absolutely. You really can. And I love how you've referenced that, because some people can and will be open for, like, it's more spiritual. Don't have to see it to believe it, and they just understand energy. But the biological, side of things and more scientific, everything is there to help a certain person, whoever
Absolutely.
they think, evolve if they
Yeah.
want to evolve.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do stay, don't, and that's their path, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you've seen the light, because wow, what what a story, what a turnaround. Now you're an author. You are just amazing.
Well, what can we do? I mean, I hope I can be able to help as many people as possible, because I went through myself, and yes, you can. So that's the only thing I can say to everyone. Yes, you can. It's all here. If we get stuck here, we go nowhere.
Very, very true. Very true. If you're stuck in mind, then very
Yeah.
word. And so with the Akashic records and stuff, do you use things like just now, do you kind of do prayer or anything that's kind of different? Because back when you didn't know how to do prayer, when you were going into the church, that was the first touch on any kind of prayers. But do you do things now in a different sense of the way?
My work with the Akashic Records is the most beautiful work you can imagine. There are no rituals. This is pure connection with the divine, the archangels, angels, and spirit guides. And of course, we do have a, you could say, a set of specific prayers. They are so powerful that when you connect, when I go into the Akashic Records, I work for people. This is, for example, I don't know what kind of Akashic Records are here, but I've learned, this is the only way I've learned. The rest, when I went back to Italy, they have this, it's American as well. It's a way that they teach you for yourself to get into the Akashic Records, which is, for this method, is a big no-no. Because anyone who hasn't got the spiritual caliber to deal with the spiritual world, you can get in trouble. So you need to be well prepared, because out there can be dark forces as well as light forces. So, and when people have curses and they've been messing about themselves, you need to be a robust spiritual force yourself to give a command over the darkness. So that's the way it works. So this method will never allow or invite anyone saying, you can access the Akashic Records and see the past. No, this work is a kind of hardcore. It's not that it's hardcore. It's
Very
beautiful the way
careful
it is
though.
done. Yeah, but my teacher, for example, you don't have anyone doing this work if they do not resonate to a certain calibration. So,
Right.
this is not given. You cannot have somebody to say, can I do the work? In fact, on my website, the first warning is, this is not for everyone. I can teach those courses, but I cannot have the first person say, okay, because I can pay, I can do the course, because ethically, you're going to
Yes.
damage yourself and you're going to make a mess. So it's
So that's very important.
it is important to do this safely. And as I said,
Excuse me.
I had big satisfaction with these Akashic records. We do this for people clearing. I wrote a book here, the clearing and realignment of the soul, as well as the clearing and realignment of the houses, properties, of businesses. If there are people cannot sell the house, and they cannot sell. There is so much entities, attachment, negativity, thought forms, lurking spirit, ley lines. There is so much going on. I mean, we're all trained to do this anyway.
It's fascinating though, because it's not the first thing that you would think about if you're not able to go forward in life. Like, say you're really stuck and you're like, why does this keep happening to me? Basically that's how like, what's going on. And it's not the first thing that you would think. is that
Yeah.
you've probably got bad energies surrounding
yes.
you, or your space, or your business, or anything. And that's just, it's
I'll tell
fascinating.
you, when I started doing this work, I'll give you two examples. Which,
Okay.
when I started, I didn't believe. But my teacher said, this lady from Scotland, she said, you have to do this. I said, jeez, I said, really? Okay. And I was frightened. First of all, I've done with my family. Without them, I have this sister, she's bipolar. I've done the clearing on her. When people are bipolar, depressed, these are not just physical conditions. There are dark entities that commands them, that possess them. I mean, anyway, this is the spiritual talk because I don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
in
Yeah,
trouble.
yeah. No, I know, but that's it. On you go, yes.
So these are dark entities that attach on the person and they drive them mad. I removed a double soul that took possession of my sister. She didn't know that. She called me the day after. And I said, oh God, because every time she was calling me, it was a trouble. And I
Yeah,
said, oh
problems,
God,
uh-huh.
what now? And she said, oh, I have to tell you something. And I said, okay, go on, what happened? And I said, something extraordinary has happened to me. This morning I was in bed and I smelled this rose perfume. And she said, usually it's la Madonna, Mother's Mary, that comes and is good news. So I said, the funny thing, I felt like she removed these things from my body. She removed something like this heavy fog that was trapping my body. And this was lifted. And I feel so light, and I feel so good. I was like, oh my goosebumps! Even now, I have
I know,
goosebumps.
I'm like,
And I said, and that was my first confirmation that this works. I never told her. I just kept quiet, and I said, oh my God, this works.
it's
The second
crazy.
confirmation. There was at the beginning. I was in Saudi. And I was there doing this hiding behind closed door. I was so scared to these things. This lady, she came to me and she said, I need to help my sister.
Uh-huh.
Her sister was in Ireland and she had a farm. The farm was on the market for 7 years. They couldn't
7
sell.
years.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was
bloody
no
hell,
way
that's a long time.
they couldn't sell the farm. And I've done the clearing on the property and herself and the farm. There was all sorts because this land can have can be sacrificial land from 2000
I was
years
just going to
ago.
say, because it would probably have such a history to the land as well.
Yeah. So there was all sorts. After the clearing, they sold everything like this. And I said, that for me, that's it. I just went full on. And I
My
said, that's
goodness.
it. It works. It works. It
You're
works.
like a magician.
I don't do anything. This is just, if you're meant, you are just conduit. That's your job for this life. That's what you're meant to do. And you have to serve. This is a service for humanity.
Yes.
You have to,
Yes.
And I said, well, I had to get near to kill myself to understand
Yeah.
what was my life path.
Yeah. What's your purpose? What's your life path? And
Yeah.
wow, that's crazy. My goodness. Well,
Yeah. Which exactly, even myself, I was sometimes I slap myself really. And not everyone knows about this work. Not everyone still, because
no.
I always kept, because I'm still teaching. So I don't want people to say, oh my God, she's the witch, oh my God, oh,
Hey,
she's, no, oh my God, it's hot. So, that's what you're meant to do. That's what you're meant to do. I got at the
exactly.
stage now, look, I'm past
You're
50.
owning it. You're owning it now. It's like, yeah, like, And a lot of people won't understand that type of work, but that's on their level. But a lot of people do. A lot more people are wakening up and opening up this spirituality
Yeah.
side of things, and that we do have past, lives and past, basically things put in place for us at a soul level. And before, people would just go a long time ago, oh, what a load of nonsense. Things are changing now, and people are wakening up, I would say.
Yeah.
So this kind of work is really, really needed. Really, really
It is
needed.
needed. if we realize, if we understand, I can now see when I go out, I go to the shop, I go to work, I can see too much. I can see too much. People are up here with all sorts of negative energy carrying around. Unaware, totally unaware. Totally. I was there, I know
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah, yeah.
but I can see now, I mean, it's just so unaware and it's everywhere. Everyone. We are bombarded constantly, constantly. Not everyone has to go through my story, but every single human being, we are exposed. We are exposed,
Well, that's
even
it,
if
to
it's
negative
mild.
energies and negative.
Yeah. If he's at work, he's at home, he's on the street, he's when you walk in a park, those energies are everywhere, everywhere. Yeah.
Just it's fascinating, and it's so true. But then when you're in a space, you can feel a negative energy. Sometimes you can feel that, and that's just
Yeah.
that's just from people if they're actually feeling negative and they're being negative, maybe not a negative energy, but in them in general, you can just feel somebody else's negative
Oh
energy
yeah.
and the way they're
Yeah.
feeling. So imagine if that's like really consuming them, but they're not aware. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's
When you're
amazing.
aware.
Totally. And so what, your books as well, where is it that people can purchase them if they're interested in buying them? Like, where's the best place to direct it? Is
Amazon.
it to your website or Amazon?
Amazon. There are all my books there, or even my website. Maybe I'll give you the link of my
Yeah,
website.
give me the thing for your website and for
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, because when I upload this, I can put that on it and it just makes it easier for somebody to access.
Yeah.
If they want
Yeah.
to ask you questions or if they want to connect with you, then they can do
Yeah.
that on the website and then with the books as well.
Yeah. That would be very nice, Michelle. That would be very
Yeah, yeah,
nice. Yeah.
I'll do that, absolutely.
People with benefits. Yeah, you never know. So exactly, they can find me on my website or do Facebook or Instagram and all that stuff.
Good,
So
because I'll
I'll
put
give
all
you.
your handles in. So I'll put the handles for your socials and then for your books for Amazon and obviously your personal website as well, so they can reach out. Some people I done a podcast the other day and somebody reached out because the lady thought it was something wrong with her thyroid, and so when I was doing that, she said somebody actually contacted her to ask a question about that. So the information that we're putting out there, again, somebody could reach out to you as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's important just to drop that in, I think, when I'm doing these, because it can help somebody,
It
and
can be
that's our
useful. Yeah,
purpose.
exactly. The other day, well, yesterday, I was watching your podcast, and there was that lady was talking about that her mum was sick and she was using some product, but I couldn't find the link of this lady. What kind of product is she into? She works for pharmaceutical
Oh,
Canada.
yes.
The
Right.
lady from Canada.
I'll look over and
Yeah, because there
because
is no link on the podcast of her and the product she suggests that was.
I'll ask Diane because I can update that. Because I just put her contact details in for her socials. But I think because she founds a couple of different companies and one of
Okay.
them's just launching, the one with the molecule. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one the melody there.
That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's just that's nearly at the go stage. So I'll maybe get in touch with her and just say, is there any other links I can add to that?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
might be
exactly.
easier for people to check you out,
Yeah.
because obviously it is definitely it's definitely worthwhile and it makes it a lot easier. Oh, thank you so much for coming on today and speaking openly about your past and basically your journey to where you are and who you are now and finding yourself and your purpose and showing your amazing work with your books that you've done as well. Very, very
Thank you
proud.
so much, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
My
you so
pleasure.
much. Yeah, good. Thank you. And have a lovely day. And I will get this uploaded next week for everybody to watch. And it gives me some time to get your links, okay? Well, take
Thank
care.
you.
It's been a
Bye for your
pleasure.
time. Bye.
Thank you.